What up, Ho Biscuits? It's your girl Skitten, back at it again. Welcome to another installment of hashtag 8 Nights of Halloween. Today we are here to watch Exploring History Halloween from the Exploring series. I realized recently, and by recently I mean like a couple minutes ago, that we have like 1,001 movies about the true meaning of Christmas, but we don't really have any movies about like the true meaning of Halloween. I guess you could argue for Nightmare Before Christmas or whatever, but honestly that's just another movie about the true meaning of Christmas and what Christmas really should be, and also about like loving yourself and staying in your lane and blah blah blah. And also Tim Burton said that black people don't fit his aesthetic, so fuck him. Anti-Who's-in, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are staying safe and sanitized. I'm actually pretty excited. The Exploring series, I've only really watched their SCP videos. They go in depth, but they also manage to keep it general enough so that you get a basic idea like at the end of the video. So I'm super excited to see what they have to say about Halloween, because I don't really know anything about the origins of Halloween or anything. For me, and mine, Halloween is an opportunity to like go trick-or-treating with my little brother and then go dress like a hoe and party with my friends. Like, that's what it is for me if we're gonna be real. So I'd love to see like how it originated, because I'm sure that is not what they had in mind. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Play.
Samhain, Nos Callan Gaeth, All Hallows Eve, Halloween. Chances are, almost no matter where you live,
Wait a minute. Wait a gosh dang minute. He said Samhain. I was like, what the fuck is Samhain? Is that how you say Samhain? Oh my god. My entire life I've been mispronouncing Samhain. Ah! It's fine. It's fine.
Celebrate or know someone who celebrates a day that remembers or honors the dead in some fashion. Whether it's Dia de Muertos in Mexico, the Ghost Festival in China, or All Souls Day among Christians, almost every religion and civilization honors the dead in some form. But we're going to be talking specifically about Halloween and its history.
Yeah.
In modern times, Halloween has largely come to mean a day of children asking for candy from neighbors and adults making bad decisions at parties, but the history of the holiday goes back much farther than this. Most believe that the earliest roots of Halloween can be found in the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. Samhain, the Gaelic word for November, and originally meaning summer's end, was a festival marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter.
Got it.
Traditionally observed from sunset on October 31st to sunset on November 1st, the holiday was observed throughout Ireland and Scotland. Mythology states that celebrations of Samhain would feature alcohol, feasting, and games, and would last up to a week.
That sounds like my kind of holiday. I'm just saying.
It was believed that during Samhain, the doorways to the otherworld opened, and spirits of the dead and other supernatural beings were free to enter our world.
Yeah.
The spirits were both respected and feared, as the Celts believed that they were responsible for the fate of their crops, but also the spirits made it easier to predict the future. To appease the spirits, they would make large bonfires and throw crops or animals as sacrifices into the fire. They would also leave food and drink outside of their homes as offerings, as well as set extra places at their tables for the spirits. Various rituals for predicting the future would occur, including roasting hazelnuts, dream interpretation, and smoke reading.
I know what the hell the hazelnuts got to do with
Eventually, the Roman Empire conquered much of the Celtic territory,
right?
And some of their festivals merged with that of Samhain.
As they
Specifically, Parentalia, a festival held in honor of family ancestors, and the celebration of Pomona, who was most commonly associated with apples. This is likely where the bobbing for apples tradition came from.
Okay.
In 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV rededicated the Roman Temple of Pantheon to Saint Mary and all the martyrs on the 13th of May, which became known as All Hallows Day, hallow meaning saint. This coincided with the date of Lemuria, an ancient Roman pagan ritual of the dead. Over 200 years later, Pope Gregory IV would move the date from May to November 1st, the same date as Samhain.
Okay.
It's debated exactly why the change was made, although it is a very fitting time for the holiday,
Right,
as it's
yeah.
a time when many things in nature die off.
Coincidence? I think not!
As many major feasts in Christianity had a vigil the night before, October 31st became known as All Hallows' Eve, and November 2nd became All Souls' Day, to commemorate all the dead.
Okay.
The 3 days were known as All Hallowtide. It is likely the Catholic Church adopted the holiday as a way to replace the pagan festival of Samhain with a more church-sanctioned one.
As they fucking
Although
did
in
all the
Ireland,
time.
they celebrated All Saints' Day on April 20th to avoid that very same connection. Traditions involved with All Hallowtide included ringing church bells for souls in purgatory, criers parading the streets dressed in black, and groups of poor people, especially children, going door to door and collecting special cakes. These cakes, known as soul cakes, were baked for the souls of the dead, and collectors, called soulers, would take them in exchange for praying for the dead. The soul cakes would then be offered for the souls to eat, or they would eat them themselves as representatives of the dead.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that now we get fucking cheap ass candy? I could have been getting freshly baked cakes? Well, now, we need to bring this back. We need to bring the practice of giving cakes away for Halloween back. I'll go trick-or-treating right now. I'm a grown-ass woman. I will go trick-or-treating right now for some fucking cake. What? That is so much better back then.
This is likely the main inspiration for the modern tradition of trick-or-treating. Some would dress up as saints themselves, or in costumes to avoid vengeful spirits identifying them.
Yeah.
This tradition is possibly based on earlier rituals of dressing as the dead, and would continue on to many other parts of the world. During the Reformation of the Church of England, the Protestants attacked the customs of All Hallowtide, as it was specifically incompatible with their theology.
Right.
Much of the beliefs surrounding the spirits of the dead within Catholicism at the time were related to purgatory, the belief that souls of the dead were held in a state of limbo before they could enter heaven.
Which is still such
As
a
Protestants
fucked
had discarded the notion of purgatory, they came to believe that any spirits of the dead returning to earth were in fact evil. Not all
Demons.
Protestants
Got
believed
it.
this, but many discarded the traditions of All Hallowtide, instead blessing their homes to ward against evil spirits and witches.
I mean, I feel like something that a lot of people forget about the Protestant movement is that it wasn't just a rejection of like the Pope, right? They weren't just like, oh man, fuck the Pope. It was a rejection of all of the ceremonies and the ritualism that is embedded and inherent deep within Catholicism. You know, Protestants really were trying initially, right, to get away from the pageantry, right, of Catholicism. They were like, this is not what God intended. God intended for, us to live simply and this and that, and just the vast empire of the Holy Roman Empire and the vast wealth of the Catholic Church was anathema. So it makes sense that they were like, nah, bro, y'all are trying to say that, the spirits are coming here to help us, bless us, all this shit. Nah, bro, demons. That is Satan. That's Satan.
The rise of Guy Fawkes Night in the early 17th century in Britain led many of the traditions of All Hallowtide to be transferred to that holiday instead. The rise of Guy Fawkes Night in the early 17th century in Britain led many of the traditions of All Hallowtide to be transferred to that holiday instead. During this time, All Hallows' Eve became known as Halloween, shorted from Hallowed Evening.
That makes sense, yeah.
Back in Ireland and Scotland, the tradition of guising began to take hold.
Of what?
Children dressed in disguises of spirits or supernatural beings went from door to door, often carrying a lantern made out of a scooped-out turnip, and recited verses or songs for food or coins.
That's cute.
If the home gave food, it could expect good fortune in the future, and if not, could expect misfortune.
Ah.
This, of course, led some youths to bring the misfortune themselves, and began playing pranks on those who were not plentiful in their offerings. The scooped out turnips and other root vegetables were often placed outside homes with candles inside of them to either represent spirits or to ward them away. This eventually became the common tradition of setting out jack-o'-lanterns. For a while in North America, the traditions of Halloween did not catch on, largely due to the strong Protestant influence.
Right, yeah.
However, in the 1800s, large amounts of Irish and Scottish immigrants came to America and brought with them their traditions of guising, parties, and decorating for the spirits. By the early 1900s, Halloween was being celebrated across the United States. Over time, the industrialization and commercialization of America went to work, and Halloween became a highly profitable holiday, filled with mass-produced costumes, decorations, activities, and candy. In fact, over a quarter of all candy sold in the United States is sold around Halloween. During this time, many of the associations with All Hallowtide and the Christian influences have been forgotten.
Yeah.
Instead, the holiday has become
Yeah.
more focused on communities and fascination with the dead and supernatural.
Yeah.
While I could hardly cover the entire history of such a long-lived holiday in such a short video, I hope I've given you an interesting look at a fascinating part of history. It's interesting to see how traditions and celebrations change throughout hundreds of years, and how they're influenced by folklore, religious beliefs, and common interests. While the oldest form of Halloween was meant to both celebrate the dead as well as predict the future, modern Halloween has forgotten many of its original intentions, while still keeping much of the same feeling.
Right.
Although it's unlikely Halloween will continue in its present form over the next 2,000 years, human beings will always have some fascination with the dead.
Human beings. Legumes. That was actually super fucking interesting to me. You know, one of the smartest things I ever heard someone say is that a lot of people's concept of history begins with when they were born. And so many people just forget, like, Halloween's been around for longer than 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, even 100 years. It's been around for so long. And it's just not something that people really think about. So it's actually really interesting to find out, like, where these traditions came from, where trick-or-treating came from and stuff like that. You know, obviously he can't address everything, like he said. It's a short video, but I think this was a really good introduction. I would love to see how, you know, we went from saints to, like, now vampires and ghosts and mummies and all of that. Like, I would love to see, like, was that a result of commercialization? Was that just diversification of, you know, when they were like, oh, they're not saints, they're demons, they're evil creatures, blah, blah, blah. Like, how did that come across? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your reaction requests and recommendations down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the other videos in my hashtag 8 Nights of Halloween series. There's a scary short film in there. There's some SCPs. There's some serial killers. I had a great time. I'm having a great time, and I hope you guys are too. Other than that, peace out, Ho Biscuits. It's Skittin' Lit.